What are you doing?
Nothing.
Nothing? Why not?
Trying to get on this Lifestyle Radio website.
Sounds like a cool website.
Yeah, it's alright. Oh, wait, I might have it.
You might have it.
You're listening to Lifestyle Radio.
The opinions expressed during this show are those of the individual participants and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of their associated organizations or Lifestyle Radio.
You know I blame it on industry. I blame it on my own hypocrisy. Miseducation and politicians. No one's willing to step up and speak.
Hello everyone and welcome to the P.A.C.E Radio Show. We are live here at LifestyleRadio.ca. You can also find us live on Spreaker, TuneIn Radio, as well as on Shoutcast. I'm your host, Al Graham. For those who will be hearing this on iHeartRadio, which is in the USA, and don't know about the P.A.C.E Radio Show, we feature Canadian cannabis advocates who reach out publicly to educate people to those sharing the medical story. Tonight, my joint host, Kim Cooper, has brought us a guest who is a patient who is involved in the cannabis community where he lives, as well as the person who reaches out to those who are uneducated. But before we find out more, I'm going to have a little talk with Kim on some news that's happening here in Canada. Kim, how are you tonight?
I'm doing pretty good tonight, Al. How are you doing?
Oh, we're in a bit of a hot box down here where I'm located. 41 degrees Celsius was the humidity, so she's a little warm.
Yeah, Southern Ontario got hit hard. We're pretty warm up here in the north. We topped out at 38 today.
38. Oh, jeez. She's warm, but hey, it could be snow, and we don't complain about that, right?
I never complain about the heat. I have my fan. I'm good. I enjoy my sun.
Okay, tonight in our news item, before we get out to our guest, I don't know if you've seen some stuff online. There's a new Facebook group out there called Sessions in the Streets, and it looks like they struck Monday.
Yes, I just had that brought to my attention, actually. I've been away and out of the scene for the last couple of weeks, but I did see the video. Quite interesting. Know many faces in that video. Love the idea.
It seems what they did was they went to Wellington and Bank Street in Ottawa, for those who aren't aware, and they basically held up the intersection. Stopped the cars from going through. They even had a plant that was being pulled behind on an e-bike. Yeah. Fantastic
spur of the moment protest. Yeah. Minimum amount of people needed, can be done anywhere, much similar to a flash mob type scene.
Yeah.
Only for the cannabis protest people.
That's what it's
fantastic.
That's what it seems to be, like a flash mob style setup. So, who were some of the people that maybe you saw in the video?
Well, I seen Alison Mearden, of course, our fine friend and colleague here at P.A.C.E Radio was in the charge there. I also noticed Neil Hanam. I also noticed Barth was there along with his lovely wife. Several people. Christine,
yeah.
Yes, Christine.
Yeah, Christine, yeah.
And I also noticed that Stitch Grady was there, a very good friend of mine, a female advocate out there, who does a lot in the Ottawa area helping patients. So yeah, many familiar faces in that video. Loved it. My hat's off to all of you out there. Keep it going.
Yeah, well, they are keeping it going, by the way, just so you know. I have information that the next one is apparently this Friday in Toronto. It's going to happen at 4:20, and the location is still to be announced.
Oh, fantastic. I can't wait. To see news on this. And hopefully we'll see little chapters of this sort of thing springing up in local municipalities and have them happening everywhere.
Well, let's bring our guest in and see what he thinks about this situation, because it might be something that might be able to spread across the country,
Yeah, sure.
So at this time, I'd like to welcome the person who I said likes to help others. I'd like to welcome Stephen Stairs to the P.A.C.E Radio Show. Stephen, you there?
I am here. Thank you very much, everybody, for having me. Appreciate it.
Hey, we appreciate you coming on and talking to our listeners. And, letting them know about what you're doing out there on the in the Midwest, and as well as some information on yourself. It helps educate other people when we get to talk to patient advocates and others about what they're doing. So it's always good to be able to talk to people.
Absolutely.
Yes. So, Stephen, as we were talking in the news there, you heard that about the streets and the sessions. Is this something that you've heard about out there?
Yeah, actually, I did hear about it. Actually, just the other day, I heard about it, and I thought the idea of these kind of impromptu, specifically orientated or just broad-based protests are kind of a neat idea that I think the cannabis movement can really capitalize on, the ability for people to really follow the social media aspect of it, or just the word of mouth, and create a good public demonstration for a good cause.
I don't know whether they handed out any educational information or anything that while they were doing it, but if that's not happening, it might be not a bad suggestion. That way people would understand what's going on as well.
Yeah,
Definitely.
Go car to car, hand out leaflets, that sort of thing, information. This is why we're stopping you, and this is what's going on. It's an awareness campaign, and I think that would be absolutely great.
Yeah. Well,
yeah,
Stephen,
I love seeing that.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying, I love seeing that kind of, education-based philanthropy, I could call it, I guess, from the volunteer aspect of the cannabis movement, where we take our time to educate others with real personal gain for ourselves.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, guys. Well, we'll get this interview going, and usually what happens here, Stephen, is the joint host gets asking the questions, and I'll just follow along.
Excellent.
Right.
Well, I'm ready.
All right. Thanks so much for the intro, Al. Great always talking to you at the beginning of every show. I'm going to take a couple seconds to do a quick shout out here to a couple of studio audience members we have downstairs. Good night, Sienna. Good night, Aurora. Have a good night, girls.
It's always good to reach out to the listeners.
Yes, that's right. So carrying on with our session here, Stephen, I must say I have never met you in person. You being out in Winnipeg and me being in Northern Ontario, we haven't had a chance to connect. Like many of us in the movement, we've known each other only on Facebook and through different social media events and so forth. But I am aware of you and your situation. For any of the viewers that are out there, do you want to give us a quick overview of who you are? I know that you're legally blind, and cannabis, you are part of the original MMIR and have your right to grow. What got you into the movement to start with?
Well, thanks for that intro, you guys. I really appreciate it. Personally, I got into the movement, I guess you could call it, by being a patient. I was I continue to still be a legally blind individual. I was born legally blind, and I've been progressively getting closer to the completely blind spectrum ever since. And when I was about 26, 2009-ish, I started using medical marijuana to treat my glaucoma. I have 3 genetic eye diseases on top of each other, kind of layered, and glaucoma is the one that really is benefited by cannabis treatment. And the other 2 are cataracts and something called RP, which is retinosis pigmentosus, which is a scarring of my retinal tissue. Something you can Google later.
Yeah.
But cannabis was very effective for me right off the hop. And that got me very into the, I want to know more about this. I want to become, as up to date as I can be with this kind of ever-changing plant substance, because at that time, yes, we did have a medical marijuana system in Canada, but the knowledge and the information sharing hadn't been as broad-based as it is now. I mean, with Facebook groups popping up, like you're saying, every week, basically, that are sharing some sort of new information. We didn't really have that in the 2009 realm. I mean, that was before the epidemic, I call it, of the pay-for clinics that kind of popped up that ended up letting us have to... Anyway, long story short is there wasn't a lot of information back then, so I really took it upon myself here in Winnipeg with a very small cannabis community to kind of learn as much as I could and help spread the word as much as I could as well. At that time, I was at the University of Manitoba on their students' union, their student government. I was the disabled students representative, so I was in charge of about 1,300 disabled students' needs on campus. And that is where I started seeing that, it's not just me with my vision loss that's using cannabis. It's other patients who maybe not be medical marijuana users, or maybe were medical cannabis users, but the range of ailments that they were treating them and using cannabis to treat them with was astounding to me.
Yeah.
So at that rate, I started the first Medical Marijuana Students Association of its kind in the country at the university, spreading the word through students and things like that, and it just snowballed into my advocacy career from there. I like to think that I try to stay on top of the cannabis industry as much as possible, and I try to give a frank, honest approach towards the everyday public. Because, it's cannabis users aren't the people we're trying to convince here, right? It's the everyday people who maybe don't like cannabis or don't use cannabis who we need to, give the benefits of. And that really inspires me to keep doing it.
Awesome. So you got started through accident. So you're another, what we like to call an accidental advocate.
Exactly.
It came upon you by chance through personal experience.
Mm-hmm. And I think that honestly, the passion that I think a lot of us feel is directly correlated with the benefits to our health that we feel from cannabis, and that kind of trumps, bad phrasing, but that kind of circumvents any sort of I know circumvents any sort of worry that people would have regarding it, and we say, well, yeah, I know you don't like it for this reason, or I know you don't like it for that reason, but look what it did for my health. Look at who I am now. Look at the life I have because of it. And I think that really, is a good catalyst towards people's opinion changing.
Yeah, hey, I gotta agree completely with you there, Stephen, because I know myself when I got Crohn's and I had noticed the benefits, I had to go out there and share it with everybody. And it's just like yourself. You got to get out there, talk to people, and talk to the people who aren't aware of cannabis, and maybe are the ones that only believe the propaganda. And yet, when you can show the benefits that it did to yourself and explain all that, it really helps to change a lot of people's minds.
Yeah, I think the days of the stereotypical, teenagers sitting in the basement in a circle and we're all getting stoned and blah, 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 blah. These people are opening their eyes to cannabis is much more than that. Yes, stuff like that occurs, but it's so much more than that. The medical aspects outweigh any and kind of recreational aspects in by a long shot.
Completely. I think any sort of negative stereotype that's associated with cannabis as a whole is just directly correlated to any other social, construct that we've created. So, there's always going to be that person who drinks alcohol in excess and has a bad time. There's always going to be that person who is really, really irritable without that first cup of coffee in the morning. There's always going to be that little bit of society where we're like, that's not a great representative whole of who we are, but it exists. So I think we just have to keep breaking that stigma that people have that think that, exactly what Kim said, we are just a bunch of, pot-smoking, Dorito-eating, lazy stoners sitting around in a circle giggling. Like, occasionally I like to sit around giggling. I'm not even kidding. But for the majority of the time, I'm proactive because that's not who we are as a whole. So
that's right.
Exactly. When you came out, Stephen, did some people's the family don't have any problems or concerns? Others, they could spend some time, educating them because they could be upset.
Yeah, we've had many people that we've had on for shows and through discussions that had, family member losses, close friend losses, that kind of thing, because they didn't appreciate the fact that you're using cannabis. You endured any of that? I have to a point, but I think I've taken all the necessary steps I think I could and still will continue to do so to mitigate any sort of negative feelings or animosity that I get from friends or family members regarding it. Just for a personal example, not to get too deep, but during a custody issue that I had with separation, child rearing responsibilities, my ex was concerned about my, quote, usage and the appearance of it around the children, etc. But I presented the appropriate information and all the honest facts about it to the court proceedings, and it was deemed
not a viable concern. It was deemed, well, he's a medical marijuana user, big deal. Let's move on.
Yeah.
So I think that, people, I mean, I've had family that really kind of doesn't believe it necessarily, but I don't let it fault me. I don't let it fault them. That's their opinion. Let's move forward. But I think for the majority part, I think as long as you're honest and you try to do as much as you can from your side without obviously, bending over backwards and taking it, that you have to try to at least appease their concerns. But that only goes so far where you don't have to struggle in your personal life to make their personal life better. I think if they can't understand that it's treating, an ailment or condition, then they really just need to do more research, or you need to stop worrying about their opinion totally. So.
Yeah, I found that as they see what happens and how it benefits you, then it seems to really change some people's minds.
Seeing is believing, right?
Correct.
Completely agree.
Yeah. Okay, guys, it's already just flying along here. It's already break time.
Oh my goodness! Already, holy cow!
All right, and tonight, while we go into break, we're going to hear from Ill Scarlet and their song 1A. And when we return, Kim and I will continue our talk with our guest, Stephen Stairs of the Winnipeg 420. This is the P.A.C.E. Radio Show here on LifestyleRadio.ca. This is the P.A.C.E. Radio Show.
You're listening to Lifestyle Radio.
Hey, everybody, we're going to Neil's party. Got you a drink in the hand, one is the place to have some fun. Got you a split in the other hand, we to the top of the reggae band, rocking until the morning light. One is the place to feel alright, I say.
Canada, the time to act is now. These days, your customers are seeking variety. Increase your earning potential by expanding your inventory with CC Nexus, Canada's largest cannabis seed wholesaler. CC Nexus stocks over 60 reputable breeders, including Canuck seeds, with a wealth of autoflower, regular, feminized, and CBD strains. All first-time customers will receive a free pack of Canuck seeds, plus a mug, t-shirt, and additional promotional materials. Add strains and increase your profit with CC Nexus, your Canadian-owned and operated wholesaler of cannabis seeds. Discreet, worldwide stealth shipping from Canada, supporting you locally. Call today, 1-844-843-7995, 1-844-843-7995, or visit us at ccnexus.global.
The following is a public service announcement from the Canadian Therapeutic Cannabis Partners Society. The Canadian Therapeutic Cannabis Partners Society is a non-profit organization dedicated to ensuring improved access to therapeutic cannabis and cannabis byproducts in Canada. With a federal government that has committed to legalizing cannabis, we feel it is our duty to ensure that the medicinal use of cannabis doesn't get lost in the process and that there are clear distinctions made between the medicinal and recreational use of cannabis. It is our mission to ensure that government regulation doesn't get in the way of a sick, disabled, or terminally ill person's right to use or produce this amazing natural health product. If you would like to get involved, you can contact us on the internet, www.canadiantherapeuticCannabisPartners.com, on Facebook, CTCP Society, or search Canadian Therapeutic Cannabis Partners.
This is Al Graham of the P.A.C.E. Radio Show. Are you keeping pace, as in keeping people advocating cannabis education? If you're not, and you're a cannabis consumer, then why not? Others are working hard every day to help educate people about cannabis so you can enjoy your daily 420. Get involved and speak out. Be loud and proud so that you can keep pace. Tune into the P.A.C.E. Radio Show every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to hear about people advocating cannabis education here on LifestyleRadio.ca.
Growing your own vegetables, flowers, or even medicinal plants can be a challenge without the right equipment and proper know-how. At BMA Hydroponics, not only are they your urban horticultural experts and suppliers, but their staff holds the customer's needs paramount to making a sale. Family-owned with decades of experience and knowledge, they offer free advice in person, by phone, or email. BMA Hydroponics wants to ensure you have the advice you need, which is why you'll find tips and tricks on different ways to grow, like wick, ebb and flow, drip, or aeroponic system, as well as other helpful links at bmahydroponics.com. If you can't find what you're looking for, just let them know, and they'll do everything they can to get what you're looking for. At BMA Hydroponics, each staff member also possesses a federal exemptee MMAR license, making their strong suit empathy, experience, and dedication to their customers. Because when you know how to grow, you'll have results that make you proud. BMA Hydroponics in Belleville, Ontario. Visit bmahydroponics.com.
BMA offers cannabinoid testing, so if you want to prove you've got good medicine, head to BMA Hydroponics and prove it.
All I know, there's no place like it, and if you like it, then I might suggest you come around again. And I'm so stoned.
Welcome back to the P.A.C.E Radio Show. We are live, and we include our guest, Stephen Stairs, as well as my joint host, Kim Cooper. Talking about live shows, I'd like to remind everyone that the P.A.C.E Radio Show does live on-location broadcasts with the host of the 420 Radio Show as we take things on the road. We've broadcasted from the Toronto Global Marijuana March, the Lift Expo in Toronto, as well as from the Peterborough Cannabis Day event. If you missed these events and you want to know what it was like being there, then listening to these podcasts would be the next best thing. You can find all these broadcasts at LifestyleRadio.ca as well as at 420Radio.ca. Tonight in the P.A.C.E Radio Show, as I mentioned, Stephen Stairs and my joint host, Kim Cooper, are here. Stephen, before I pass you back over to Kim, I have a question for you. Sure. I have a very, very close friend of 20 years or more who is dealing with glaucoma presently. I'm just wondering if you would have maybe any possible advice as far as maybe strain selection, and with all the new things coming in with the non-smoking ways of cannabis, whether you find they're as effective as smoking.
Yeah. Well, I mean that's a great question, or a great series of questions there, Al. First off, sorry for the friend with the glaucoma. I mean, I've dealt with it at a young age, so I've kind of had to, learn to accept it. But having glaucoma kind of brought upon you at any age really is a rough time. So definitely my condolences there for any sort of treatment that is going forward. Now, I personally, I find that my glaucoma gives me a couple real big problems with my vision loss and day-to-day life. One is I get wicked headaches. Wicked headaches are caused by the sunlight. I have very, very, very intense light sensitivity. I have massive anxiety due to the lack of vision loss. It's a perceptual disability. It's not a physical disability, so other people don't really understand the limitations that my vision loss pertains to my day-to-day interactions with them. So that creates a big anxiety there. And then third is just the intraocular pressure itself, the actual effects of glaucoma. To treat all three of those real symptoms, I've really found that heavy indicas with lots of CBD, and generally the THC doesn't have to be the highest. I mean, it's generally I want a heavier hitting narcotic feel.
This person would like to be able to function through the daytime, so that would be good.
Yeah, I mean, if you can get a hybrid that's got a mid-range THC that's going to keep you awake during the day, a little bit of sativa, but on the lower end it's got maybe 75-25 on the indica range. That can keep you through the day. That'd be great. I mean, but it's all dependent. I mean, I can smoke Kush all day and still function and not be sleepy. That's just one of those. That's how my metabolism is. But I mean, also I find that through some of these new methods of consumption, I find that edibles are one that's really good for an overall day-to-day and kind of pain relief for the headaches. But I find that they're not as effective in a drastic reduction in intraocular pressure. Now, CBD capsules, I find, have been really good for that.
Yeah, great. Good to know. Good to know.
Yeah, so I mean, honestly, if he's really has some more questions, man, tell him to look me up on Facebook or Twitter, and I would love to chat.
I'll do that, and I have sent them a text to let them know that I was talking to you tonight. So I'm hoping that they are listening to the show, and either way, if they're not listening tonight, they will be listening because I will inform them where to to do that. So,
Awesome.
all right, it's if any information we can pass along to people who are dealing with the same condition. I realize everybody's a little bit different, but it's always good to help everybody out. So.
Yeah, for sure.
All right.
For sure. Baseline to start with.
That's right. Yep. That's right. And just so you know, the patients, it has been suggested to them, but it's just trying to make sure that access to proper strains and a strain that they make sure that they can function on a daily, because it is affecting their work and the whole bit, obviously. So
yeah.
And on a side note to that, just personally, tell them to keep continuing to do what they're doing with their doctor already. Eye drops or whatever. Don't stop that. Just relying on pod. Do the whole encompassing kind of treatment, right?
Correct. Yes. Like for years, even though I was on cannabis all this time, I was still doing my Crohn's treatments, which required pharmaceutical drugs, but. The cannabis also helped with the symptoms of those drugs as well. So,
yeah, ironically, a lot of eye drops that are using to treat glaucoma are actually made from marijuana synthetics anyway. So it's kind of ironic.
Oh, interesting.
Interesting.
Yeah, since like the '80s, they've been doing that. It's really funny, actually.
Oh, really? Because I had that down as a question. You think they'll ever have cannabis drops for your eyes? And here you are.
Yeah, they already do.
They already do it. Too funny, yeah. Because I already know that they're on the drops, and they do find the relief from the pressure, so that's good. Okay, Kim, over to you.
Thanks, Al. I hope everybody enjoyed their little break, and thanks for helping out with the advice there. That was awesome. Yeah, Stephen, so where we left off in your sort of rundown on your history, you pretty much got your start at the university. Now I know you also are in charge of 420 Winnipeg as well, and a few other groups. How's things going with 420 Winnipeg?
Well, the 420 has actually been a personal passion of mine to really change the the public perception of what the event means in the city. I don't know how it was in other cities across the country. I mean, because a lot of them have had longer established events going on. But in Winnipeg, we've had people gathering at the municipal legislature grounds for 25 years, but it's always been a fairly disorganized kind of melee mishmash of people just kind of sitting around, and there's a random guy who brings a speaker on a bike or something, or there's a guy who brings a DJ set, or there's just some random kind of mishmash of stuff, and
everybody who's into it just happens to show up there.
Right, which was great for the community to have a day, but it wasn't furthering the movement. It was just, hey, this is that one day a year where we all sit around and smoke pot. No one thinks we ever get anything accomplished. I'm going to see you next year. And that really started to bug the crap out of me. Because I saw the movement in all these other cities, with global marijuana marches and dispensaries and vape lounges and all these other things that were really, cascading their movement forward. And Winnipeg was just like, we didn't even have a vape lounge. I was super, disheartened by what was going on, and I kept hearing rhetoric from people, about let's change the event, and they were like, oh, no, let's not do it. It's just a bunch of, skipping school stoner kids that are going there. Don't bother with it. And that really discouraged me even more that we would never have a community. So it really lit a fire under me to turn the event into something that was organized and credible. So I started again with the University of Manitoba helping me out with some funding through my student union, or my student group that I started there for medical marijuana. And, I rented a bus, and I shuttled people from the Manitoba Legislative Grounds to City Hall, and we had a police-escorted march through the downtown, and that was really neat. Nice. And then, so it started to snowball from there. And this year, so that was about three years ago that we did the bus thing, and this year was just the biggest event we've had so far, where we got permits and licenses from the city. We had street vendors and food vendors and local head shops and things like that had set up booths all along the sidewalk in front of the legislative grounds. We had face painters and info booths and a DJ who was playing reggae music all day. It was great. We had silent auction prizes. We even got some of the silent auction, we have a silent auction that raises money for the organization. And some of the silent auction prizes that were given were not just from head shops around the city or pot businesses. They were from pizzerias and,
regular
stores.
business.
And it was amazing to see this gathering of community that really was supporting the idea of a real marijuana or cannabis event in the city. So our goal as a community organization now, we've actually got a nonprofit set up, and I've got a board that's helping me out now. We're really trying to turn 420 into the Winnipeg Wine Festival or Taste of Manitoba or Folklorama, but of the cannabis industry. I mean, we want to have a credible industry in our niche culture and society going forward with legalization. So the only way we can have that is to be establishing the fundamental and the groundwork now, and that's what we've been doing, and we've been really successful at it.
Perfect. It sounds awesome. These guys have come a long way in 3 short years, that's for sure. My hat's off to you for sticking to it and all the exuberance that you've put into this. Do you have other plans for other events besides 420? Is it going to expand beyond the 1 day a year?
Well, honestly, this year we are talking about bringing in some other events to the city as well. Winnipeg, because Winnipeg, we have a march on 420 where we get a police escorted march through the downtown. That requires some insurance and some funds that go behind it. This year, we didn't have the funds to put on a global marijuana march because it is about 2 weeks after 420. But this year, coming up in 2017, we would like to have a global marijuana march event as well, which would be the first of its kind here in Winnipeg. And we'd really like to sync that up with some of the bigger ones around the country. And we'd also like to turn 420 into a 2-day event this year, having the annual protest, rally type day on the 20th, and then the 21st would be a day of trade show and music and food. So it'd be a really interesting thing that we're really working on here right now with the city. And I've actually got a meeting next Tuesday with the City Winnipeg Special Event Liaison that deals with permits and special event guidelines and things like that. So I'm really hoping to lay the groundwork early so we have a really, really nice event going forward, because hopefully we can tie it in with the legalization legislation that's, quote, coming down in the spring.
Yeah.
I know, right?
We'll see. We all kind of chuckle at that one, eh?
Well, as from what I recall, Stephen, you got a chance to ask Mr. Trudeau about that at an event, did you not?
Yeah, actually I did. I don't know if you've seen the video, but there's a video out there kind of circulating that we actually shot at the U of M, where this was in 2013, actually, right around the time Trudeau and the Liberals were fronting the idea of legalization, and I didn't feel like I trusted that idea. I felt like it was a talking point for an election coming up. And again, I took it upon myself with my wife actually helping doing the videography and me asking the questions. So kudos to Kristen. So I couldn't have done it without her. We again, at the University of Manitoba, I had an opportunity. He was there speaking, to ask him a question through my connections to the student union. And I held a sign that said, "Let my people grow." And I was in a suit and looked real nice, and I asked him about how his policies fit into, or how growing your own plant at home fit in to legalization, legislation in the Liberal Party platform. And he said, he basically said that we think it's, non-harmful, everybody should be able to grow, basically, and he treated it like alcohol. If you can brew beer or make wine, you should be able to grow pot. And that was what I really wanted to solidify in video, so there was proof of it. When something like this happens, where we're now worried about limitations to patients' grow rights, and recreational people may not even be able to grow anymore at home. So I knew that this was coming, and I just felt like if I got it on video, no one had been able to get a real good answer out of him at that point. Yeah. And I felt like this was the best answer, and I think it's probably one of the best answers so far that we got out of him. because it holds his feet to the fire regarding these things that he said, and now he's dismissing or now he's putting up reasoning for like now all of a sudden it's a danger to children for people to grow at home. Come on, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
You're telling me an arbitrary piece of paper that says you're medical, you can grow at home. Oh, you're recreational? No, you can't. That's a danger to children. How is that possible?
Yeah, well, many of us are asking that same question now that he was voted in. He's backpedaling on a lot of things, that's for sure.
I think it's disgraceful because in this situation, he's taken the hopes and the dreams and, frankly, the livelihoods of some very sick people across this country, and he's manipulated their thoughts and their dreams into votes, which now he's basically just going to tarnish and not represent them for. So it's pretty crooked, if you ask me.
Yeah. He got in on the cannabis vote. There's no doubt in my mind about that. If it wasn't for the people voting for legalization, he would not be prime minister. And for him to disregard our vote like that is atrocious.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, that's a frustrating word.
Yeah. I know. I hear you. We all hear you on that. I don't think anybody's very impressed with Mr. Trudeau these days. He's not living up to his expectations in this country, and I think it's going to lead to trouble.
It's not coming on as fast as everybody wanted it to, obviously, because he did say right away there was already a lot of this was already set up, but it seems that they want to put in their own system instead of using the one that's already there.
Yeah, and who he's elected to take charge of this commission speaks volumes on where this commission is going to head. Almost every seat except for 2, I believe, are prohibitionists and longtime prohibitionists and people that put people in jail for cannabis use and people that wrote laws to throw people in jail for cannabis use. And you can't have that kind of a commission looking at the legalization platform and expect it to come out fair.
It's absurd. It's really it would be like putting a whole bunch of bankers in charge of fixing why the banking industry collapsed in 2008. It's ridiculous. But we did that anyway. We just changed their names and give them different job titles. I mean, I don't know. It's frustrating to think that patients, and not even just patients, people who are established in the industry as advocates, business owners, even lawyers, and people like Mr. Conroy and Mr. Tusaw. I mean, people who have years of litigation experience in the court systems on the ground level with these laws. It's a slap in the face.
Yes, it is, and all of those people that you mentioned applied to be on this task force. Many, as well as many others that have been embedded into this industry from the get-go. Like out in BC and in here in Ontario, there are people that have been advocating and operating businesses without issue for 25 years. And all of a sudden, their knowledge has now become irrelevant. It just doesn't make any sense.
Well, and especially considering these people have been basically the fundamental groundwork for the lobbying aspect of society to see the benefit. Without these people having businesses, without these dispensaries existing, you would never have a movement, you never have the culture that created the social dynamic for things to change.
Yeah,
that's correct.
Exactly. I've got to jump in here, guys. It's break time again.
Pay some bills.
Yep, time to pay some bills. And you know what?
Yep.
We may be able to play your little conversation that you had with Mr. Trudeau when we come back from the break.
Awesome.
All right. See how
Sounds
everything works
great.
out. Yep. All right, and then we'll go
Sounds
from there. Okay, and so it's time to hear some more Red Ill Scarlet and their song 1A. Then we return with Kim, and I will continue our conversation with Stephen Stairs. You're listening to the P.A.C.E. Radio Show here at LifestyleRadio.ca. You're listening to the P.A.C.E. Radio.
What you think we're doing all this time in the basement, mixing the reggae, the rock, and the ska punk, and don't know that all I want is what I got. Nothing else I require, nothing else here that I need. Where there's smoke don't mean there's fire, 'cause
Growing your own vegetables, flowers, or even medicinal plants can be a challenge without the right equipment and proper know-how. At BMA Hydroponics, not only are they your urban horticultural experts and suppliers, but their staff holds the customer's needs paramount to making a sale. Family-owned with decades of experience and knowledge, they offer free advice in person, by phone, or email. BMA Hydroponics wants to ensure you have the advice you need, which is why you'll find tips and tricks on different ways to grow, like wick, ebb and flow, drip, or aeroponic system, as well as other helpful links at bmahydroponics.com. If you can't find what you're looking for, just let them know, and they'll do everything they can to get what you're looking for. At BMA Hydroponics, each staff member also possesses a federal exemptee MMAR license, making their strong suit empathy, experience, and dedication to their customers. Because when you know how to grow, you'll have results that make you proud. BMA Hydroponics in Belleville, Ontario. Visit bmahydroponics.com.
BMA offers cannabinoid testing, so if you want to prove you've got good medicine, head to BMA Hydroponics and prove it.
The National Task Force on Medicinal Cannabis is a group of not-for-profit organizations dedicated to influencing government policy with factual evidence. Our mission is to ensure that a constitutional medical program is developed that will address the concerns of all Canadians that require therapeutic cannabis. The task force is looking for dedicated people who are willing to contribute to our cause. We have formed this task force to foster a unified approach and focus on lobbying the federal government and Health Canada. We represent the combined expertise of thousands of patients with more than a decade of experience. As a task force participant, you, your business, or your group will have an opportunity to show that you care and offer your unique skills to promote the cause. If you would like to get involved, go to medcanataskforce.org. That's medcanataskforce.org and use the Contact Us link to get started. Help us help you.
Tune into the P.A.C.E radio show and catch Kim Cooper, Debbie Stoll-Skiffen, or Alison Merlin, along with myself, Al Graham, as we talk to Canadian and international cannabis advocates who are working hard to help patients and to end cannabis prohibition. Catch us live every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here at LifestyleRadio.ca.
Canada, the time to act is now. These days, your customers are seeking variety. Increase your earning potential by expanding your inventory with C.C. Nexus, Canada's largest cannabis seed wholesaler. C.C. Nexus stocks over 60 reputable breeders, including Canuck seeds, with a wealth of autoflower, regular, feminized, and CBD strains. All first-time customers will receive a free pack of Canuck seeds, plus a mug, t-shirt, and additional promotional materials. Add strains and increase your profit with CC Nexus, your Canadian-owned and operated wholesaler of cannabis seeds. Discreet, worldwide stealth shipping from Canada, supporting you locally. Call today, 1-844-843-7995, 1-844-843-7995, or visit us at ccnexus.global.
Fits into the Liberal Party's platform regarding decriminalization or legalization of marijuana?
Well, thank you. Thank you for your question. And I actually had, over the past year, I've had an awful lot of conversations with people who are users of medical marijuana. I've spoken with parent groups and various concerned industry groups and police forces. And the one thing that we can certainly agree on is that the current approach is not working. The current prohibition has left us with a higher rate of use of marijuana in our teens than any developed country around the world. So don't let anyone tell you that legalization is going to allow for easier access for our young people to marijuana than we have right now. it can't get any easier right now. It's easier to buy a joint than it is to buy a bottle of beer for a teenager. So the issue we have is, on top of that, we are funding billions, or sending billions of dollars into criminal organizations that are making an awful lot of money and funding other more serious criminal activities around the use of marijuana. That's sort of the general perspective. On the issue of medical marijuana, it's actually amazing to see the kinds of specialization and research that is beginning to be done into what strains actually address which problems very effectively in many, many cases. And our worries are that the current hyper-controlled approach around medical marijuana that actually removes from individuals the capacity to grow their own is not going in the right direction of either respect for freedom or the kind of care that people need. Now, my vision of what the legalization of marijuana would look like is loosely based on how we control alcohol. To make sure that, yes, I mean, if someone wants to brew their own beer or make their own wine, they're more than welcome to. But the vast majority of consumers are happy to go to the liquor store to purchase their alcohol because it's of known quality. And the choices available to consumers and the knowledge of what goes into what it is that you're buying empowers consumers. This is the kind of approach we need to take, one grounded in evidence, one grounded in science, one grounded in liberty, in the freedom of people to make choices, but that at the same time does a better job of protecting the developing brain of our young people from exposure to harmful substances like, unfortunately, marijuana, alcohol, and cigarettes have a much greater impact on the developing brain than they do on adults, and therefore we need to protect our kids from it. But we don't need to be all nanny state about it the way Stephen Harper is with his prohibition. And that's what we're standing against. So thank you for standing against.
All right.
So.
There we go.
There you go.
There you go.
Trudeau's answer.
Yeah, he talked about don't want to be all nanny state and all that. Mentioned about realizes people will be wanting to be able to grow their own. What do you think, Stephen? What do you think,
I like
Stephen?
the line that it was grounded in liberty.
Yeah.
Yeah, and one that's based in science and fact and all these kind of, rhetoric words that he likes to spew out there that makes him sound like he knows what he's talking about. But in all actuality, I don't think Justin Trudeau has a clue what it means to be a cannabis user or someone who grows the stuff for medical or recreational purposes. And I say that as a guy who takes this pretty seriously for a living. Like, this is my life. And when I hear my prime minister talking about how we need to have a science-based, truth, fact-orientated system, and then he goes and makes up nonsense about how, we're going to put a former police chief who's been known to persecute pot users in charge of a task force. We're going to say that, marijuana is dangerous to children, so we can't let people grow it at home, and I don't understand any of this stuff. So it boggles my mind that we somehow voted him into power.
Well, we know that the Allard decision shows that in that case that there is no dangers of growing at home. So it'd be pretty hard for them to say that if you grow at home, you can't have children, or if you have children, you can't grow at home, because that's not something that's fair to everybody.
And it's also not science-based.
Correct.
I mean, he's saying one thing and doing another, like all politicians do. I think somehow he convinced this country of people looking for reform, and we were ready for somebody that we could believe in, and everybody threw their eggs in one basket. And I think the wrong basket was chosen.
Well, we'll find out. We'll find out when he comes out with everything. Maybe he'll surprise us. Maybe,
yeah. Well, I know a lot of people are worried about the limitations that he's going to be putting on for growers and stuff, on whether or not it would even be enough to sustain their prescriptions and that sort of thing. So I believe Kirk Tusaw said that, he was quoted on, I think, Twitter at one time saying, if the government doesn't come back with an adequate system, then we will be going back to court. And so this may be not the end.
No, that's right. Well, Stephen, so now to focus back towards, we've talked about Trudeau and everything there. And thank you very much for getting that question and getting that posted online so people can see it.
Yeah, no problem, guys. No problem.
That was fabulous. Great.
And that can be anybody who that is available on YouTube. Check out, I believe you should probably just search for Stephen Stairs, Justin Trudeau, cannabis. Put that in your search engine and I'm sure it'll show up. So.
Yep. You don't even need to put cannabis in there. It'll come up either way.
What was that?
That you don't even need to put cannabis there. Just search Stephen Stairs, Justin Trudeau, and there'll be like 3 things that pop up.
Yeah. Bang, bang, bang. That's good. That's the kind of advocacy work that we like to see. Now, there's some other advocacy work that I saw that you've had in the news lately that I think is just fantastic. I think it's a great idea. As I mentioned in your intro, you're a kind of person that reaches out to people who may not know much about cannabis, and that's what needs to be done in order to make people open their eyes and see the truth. And that is the fact that you're going around to nursing homes?
Yeah, I mean, well, you could call them seniors' homes or basically anything that has to do with anyone who's over 65, really.
Yeah.
Yep, senior homes, nursing homes, all that type of stuff. That's great.
And you're educating both patients and staff while there. Are you answering questions? Do you get a lot of people asking questions?
Yeah, so what I've been doing is I've basically been putting on information seminars at, whether or not they're personal care homes, seniors retirement homes, creative, living, community centers, where they have, baking and, yoga classes, everything like that. And what I've been doing is really educating the demographic of Canadians who honestly can benefit the most from cannabis, who also know the least. And these people are our seniors, our grandparents, our relatives, our loved ones, and they really have a lot of really good questions. Really good, I've been thinking about this for 50 years kinds of questions. And
I wouldn't doubt it.
Sorry?
I wouldn't doubt it. Keep going.
It astonishes me. I'm always so intrigued and astounded by people giving these kinds of questions and this honest opinion to someone who they really don't know, and they're comfortable enough to receive the information that I'm giving them in a very open and honest kind of way, and they just put me in my place sometimes with questions that may be negative. They may not like what I have to say. But they always ask me a good question, and I always respond back with the best answer that I can give them. And I have never had an event or a session that I've walked away from being upset. I've always walked away so encouraged and so inspired by these people. And I think I like to give them inspiration towards taking healthcare into their own hands.
Yeah. Natural remedies and, going back to the days of their parents and when they were born, before all these pharmaceuticals came along. Cannabis was most likely in the majority of the medicines that many of them used.
Oh, yeah. Oh, for sure. I mean, there was one lady that I talked to at an elderly care home, and she says she remembers when her mom would carry around an opium rag in her purse. And her mom would have a little bottle of opium, and she would just pour it in her rag, and that's how she got rid of her headaches. And she would sniff it, and that's how it happened. And that was the kids grew up seeing that, and it was just, that's how, mom treats her headaches. And it's weird that we used to think that was normal, but yet we've just totally demonized marijuana use. Or cannabis use. It's crazy.
Yeah. Well, I know pre-prohibition, children's cough syrup contained cannabis indica.
Sure.
Children's rub for their chest during a cold was cannabis. Cannabis sativa for women, that were having problems with nerves and issues.
I Actually, I think heroin, it was on bottles, helped stop the children's coughs.
Yeah. But I mean,
on a label these
crazy
days.
stuff there. But cannabis was in a large majority of the medications back in the 30s and the 20s and in the early 1900s. For sure. Yeah, so you've done much for the community. How is I know Winnipeg. I used to live there many years ago. Many years ago.
Come back sometime.
Yeah, it was a long time ago. It was only for a short period of time. It wasn't very long. But I was there. No, I was there for about 6 months. I got a job and I stayed for about 6 months. Then winter came and I split.
I was going to say, you left to go away.
That happened.
Yeah, I was back to Toronto as soon as that winter hit, man. I was out of there. But I was very young then. But I know it's not a very progressive sort of a city. They're not always the first on board for being progressive or going with the times, shall we say. Kind of last at the out of the gate for most things. How is the dispensary and other business situation growing in Winnipeg? I know that a few have opened up in recent past, but I haven't heard much on the situation with media. How are things going in the PEG?
Things here are progressing. I mean, Winnipeg and Manitoba really as a whole, we are a fairly progressive place. We just take our time being progressive. It's almost like you're saying, like we kind of watch everybody else and we kind of go, okay, you're doing it. Okay, we should do it, right? Okay, well, let's do this, everybody. Let's do it. And then we kind of get on our own little path and we get our own, thing going. But unfortunately, Winnipeg, because of the small population we have here, and with just some of the culture that we have in surrounding areas, Bible Belt type stuff, we do have a bit of a conservative demographic at times, and it's just taken us a while to get to where we are. We've had some dispensary type shops that have opened up in the past couple years, that have open to, mixed success. Some of them have, encountered legal problems. Some of them encountered some change of ownership. So currently we don't really have any real dispensaries here. We just had a weed, glass, and gifts actually open up just on Friday. So that's
I saw the ad for that.
But other than that, we don't have a real dispensary here. I know the LP in town, Delta 9, I know they're itching to get themselves a storefront as soon as Health Canada allows their regulations. So it'll come, I assume, from all angles of the industry.
With a thriving cannabis community and your 420 events becoming so popular, and there's obviously a thriving cannabis community there, that could be a business opportunity perhaps if somebody looking to go to the Winnipeg area and open up a shop.
Yeah, I mean, I really encourage anybody from across this country to come to Winnipeg, to see the potential, to see the need for access, both on the medical and the recreational side, and to say, hey, Winnipeg, other than the cold, Kim, Winnipeg's not so bad. And you know what? Even in the winter time, it keeps your cannabis a little bit fresher, right?
Yeah. Well, I converted because I went from that was many moons ago when I was Torontonian through and through, and you would never get me out of my city. Now I live in Northern Ontario, which is colder than Winnipeg.
Sometimes, yeah. That is true.
So times change for everything, right?
Stephen, talking about cannabis community, didn't you guys have a lounge there in the city?
Yeah, we still have a lounge. Actually, we have two of them really. We have one that's Vapes Off Main.
Yes, that's the one I've heard of. Vapes Off Main.
Yeah, it's located on St. Mary's. They actually just hosted the first Kind Cup, sponsored by Medman brand. We held that here, so we had our first Cannabis Cup trade show expo that Vapes was the location for, and we have the Your Medical Cannabis headquarters which was the dispensary that opened up here last July. They're still open as a resource center / vape lounge as well. They just, due to legal troubles, they had to stop selling medical marijuana. But we do have those two established. They've had to go through some restructuring, but they are well on their way to being established footholds in this community here in the city. But it takes more than vape lounges for us to have access needs met, right? So it's going to take dispensaries, it's going to take vape lounges, it's going to take coffee shops, it's going to take marijuana supported businesses from all realms.
Yeah, compassion clubs, that sort of thing. Yeah. Well, it's an opportunity. Winnipeg is basically untouched ground that already has a wedge in the door with existing businesses. So it's not a blind opportunity, which is also very attractive.
I hope they don't attack your community like they seem to be doing here in Ontario.
Yeah, and I've actually gone through some really good success stories here in Winnipeg with some legislation and legal troubles, kind of hurdles that have been already jumped through. For example, I know in Ontario right now, you guys are facing that new smoking ban that basically bans medical vaping anywhere in public or indoors, I should say. Which is really, I find that super hard to swallow, considering I had to go through that fight here just by myself and my wife at the committee level, and we won here in Manitoba. Yeah. So the new e-cigarette vaping laws strictly don't cover medical marijuana because of the fight that we put up. So I don't know how Ontario thinks that they can push over a much bigger group. You guys are going to have to fight, till they really realize it, and that's unfortunate that they would try to push over a bigger community. I think maybe
like everything in Ontario, it's going to come down to another court challenge. I mean, that seems to be the only way to get through to this government.
That's what I love to hear. Take them to court, challenge their nonsense.
That's what's gonna. They know that even back in November when they publicly announced that medical cannabis consumers would be allowed to consume in the public, people got in a huge uproar over in the next 24 hours because when they announced that, within the article within the newspaper, it said that they realized that this would be a challenge before the courts because of it's constitutional. And so they know they're going to go to court, but the reaction from the public within 24 hours was so strong is that they flip-flopped on it in order to appease the propaganda and the fear than to actually go by that evidence and science-based stuff that they should be going by.
Yeah, there was apparently an uproar. Well, they say there was an uproar, but I mean, their uproar for taking down all the dispensaries in Toronto was a complaint by 25 people. So who knows what their standard for an uproar is. But anyway, the apparent uproar was from parents saying, well, they don't want to be riding the TTC and have somebody spark up a joint. And it's like, well, you know what? Medical cannabis users wouldn't do that to start with.
Yeah, they have respect.
We respect
people. I mean, we have respect. I mean, and besides that, most of us will vape. And vape has already been proven to be non-carcinogenic. It doesn't have any smoke. It doesn't have any secondhand effect. Nobody even knows you're doing it. So there shouldn't even be an issue about it. If they're going by science, they have to go by science. They can't go by public opinion.
And as far as I'm concerned, someone smelling my medical cannabis isn't enough of a concern for them for my rights to be violated. Big deal. You don't like the smell. I don't like the smell of walking past cigarette smokers. I don't like the smell of that girl's hairspray. I don't like that dude's cologne. But I have to suck it up.
I don't like the smell coming out of that restaurant.
Yeah. Like, I don't know. I think the whole smell issue regarding marijuana is a misnomer.
Smells. Sorry, I cut you off. Sorry, say again.
Oh, I was just saying the smell issue with marijuana is a misnomer. That's all. I'm sorry, Kim.
Yeah, no, it was my bad. Sorry. Yeah, absolutely. The smell issue. I mean, it's part of our senses. We have smells. And my argument towards the whole vaporization and thing with combining it, it's the way they've worded it. It could actually apply to someone like me that has OCD and uses a Ventolin puffer. that could be deemed in the same discharge as what a vapor pen is. So you're telling me that I have to wait and have my asthma attack while I get down from the 42nd floor of an office building until I get outside before I can use my puffer? I'll be dead by then.
Correct.
Holy cow.
Yeah, Stephen, she's right. That we had Abby on, Abby Roach from the Hot Box. We had her on the radio show, and she's right involved in all that big time. And
I love Abby.
It just says some prescribed medicines and to be vaporized. It doesn't actually say cannabis.
No,
that's
ridiculous. Medicine.
Yeah.
You know why I think it doesn't actually say cannabis? I think because if it actually said cannabis, I think their law would be unjust just by that wording. Because it's a federally like regulated substance, and a provincial regulation can't specifically ban the use of it when the federal government's telling you to vaporize it is the healthiest way to do it. That's totally contradictory. I think they knew what they were getting themselves into.
Yeah, and like we said, it's going to end up before the courts.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
Well, I mean, as soon as the law becomes in effect, you know that patients around the province will be vaporizing inappropriate areas, according to the new law. We will continue to vaporize when and where we need to vaporize according to our prescription from our doctor. We will use our medication when and where necessary, and it's going to lead to charges, and it's going to lead to a court case.
Yeah. Well, man, I had a YouTube video series of vaping in public, and I think I might have to travel to Ontario just to make a new video.
We have to, and I know somebody who would be really interested in joining you, and that would probably be Puff Dog Thomas, because he's talking about going around to municipal offices or Queen's Park and getting that 9 meters away from the door and medicate.
And he's inviting people to join him. It's fabulous. I mean, many people are going to start campaigns around, and people from other provinces, come on over to Ontario and do your thing, man, because we could use the help.
Yeah, that is awesome. Support your community, guys.
Yeah. Now, you Stephen, you touched on getting involved in your municipality as far as dealing with that, the vapor stuff and everything. I noticed that at one part you were going to run for Green Party candidate.
Yeah, I ran for MP and for MLA in the 2015 federal election and the 2016 provincial election here in Manitoba.
Nice. That's what they say. To make change, you got to get involved.
That's right.
Well, the way I figure it is Kim already touched on this earlier, is that, most politicians are liars, and I'm not going to kid you. I've met a lot of them, and a lot of them lie about a lot. But I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that they promise too much, and they promise things that they think will get them elected rather than just telling the truth. And I like to think of myself, when I was running my campaign, my wife and I really came up with real people, real issues, real politics. I'm a regular guy. I've had cell phone bills that haven't paid. I've got not so great credit. I've had addiction problems in my life. I've been to jail. All these things that make me a regular person, okay?
Yeah.
That's what I'm about. That's what I'm about, a representation in Ottawa. Because I'm not saying we should all be crooks in Ottawa, because that's kind of what we're trying to get rid of. But I think that if we're going to elect people who represent us as Canadians, we need to elect people that represent us as Canadians. And that means we need to have some people who have struggled with addiction in the office. We need to have some people who maybe don't have the greatest credit, or maybe weren't the best with their finances in high school or whatever. We need all these people who've actually learned about life and about the laws that they legislate to really understand how they work. And I'm afraid when we elect people from their ivory tower or from their elitist academies, we don't get that. If someone's never known what it's like to struggle to pay a cell phone bill, why should we put you in charge of the task force that works with the communication industry to regulate how much our cell phone bill should be? You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
That makes no sense. So when I got involved, I wanted people to know, I'm not a polished person. I don't read off a script. I don't, fly by talking points. I'm a seat of my pants kind of guy. And I got a lot of respect for that on the campaign trail, because I'm just like everybody else.
Yeah.
Yeah, honesty
Perfect.
matters, man. Honesty's
It
good.
sure does. It sure does. And we so need more people to get out and speak. And there's so many people that are on the same page and they believe that, but yet they stay silent. And well, I got to make it happen, Al. I say it every show. If every cannabis user or advocate or person that is not against cannabis stood up, there'd be nobody left standing. No, nobody left sitting.
Yeah.
So, I mean, everybody's just got to stand up. There's far too many that are still quiet and in the closet and don't want to discuss it for fear of whatever.
Well, I'm sure Stephen runs into people that the people you talk to about cannabis at the senior homes. You know, I'm sure some of them are closets.
Oh, I've had seniors who've come up to me and said, I've been using for 20 years. They've been using for 20 years, and they don't talk about it publicly, but they know it helps, and they give me a little pat on the hand, and they say, "Good for you, Sonny," and they kind of walk off. And I don't expect them to all of a sudden just become, these outspoken hardcore advocates at 75 and 80.
No.
But I see a couple of them that end up, coming to a protest next time, and I'm like, hey, Gary or whatever your name is, and how are you doing? And it's just inspiring to see people who are doing exactly what you're saying, who are standing up and saying, you know what, this is me. This is us. We all are Canadians. We all use cannabis. Well, we don't all use cannabis, but a lot of us use cannabis.
Yeah.
So why should we all stand in the closet anymore?
Yeah. Or if we don't use it, we're not against it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like so many people out there I know who maybe don't drink anymore. I'm not saying that drinking is great, but who just don't drink anymore. But they have no problem with their other friends drinking. Or, for example, me. I used to be a smoker. My wife still smokes. Do I, tell her to quit every day? No. She has the right to her own life. I occasionally tell her, but that's because I love her. We all have to tell her, so it's all about life and how we respect each other's choices in life. I'm not going to tell anybody that cannabis is the only thing for them in life, and that's, they should, screw your doctor, screw your treatments, use cannabis. No, I'm going to tell you, cannabis can really work for you. Do your research, and I hope it works. I'm not going to force it down someone's
Here's some
throat,
info. Take your research from there and go. Right? Yeah. Here's some info, and now use this as a baseline to continue your research and figure out if it's right for you.
Yeah. I led you to the water. Now drink it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's they say you can lead a horse to water, but you can't get a drink. But, I know people reach out to me often for information, and that's what I'll do. I'll just send them a bunch of links and say, here, now you have to read through it because, there's no use asking me for information and then just want to hear what I have to say on it. Read the actual information and get some education, and then share it with people. And that's what people do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
On a note to that, sorry, if anybody wants to have some questions for me in the future, I really like to chit chat because of my vision loss. I don't really like to type a lot. So if I ever ask you to call me in the future, that's why, everybody.
That's right. Okay, well, talking about chit-chatting and stuff, usually towards the end of the show, we like to have you throw a shout-out to somebody or some place or website. How can people find you? Well,
if people want to get in contact with me, they can just Google me. Really, any social media platform I'm basically on. I'm on social media, Twitter. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. The 420 Organizing Committee has a Facebook page and an email address and stuff like that. Winnipeg 420 OC for Organizing Committee at gmail.com. Or you can just, like I said, you can find me on social media. You can email me, stevenstairs@gmail.com. Or, like I said, Facebook me, and I'll send you my phone number. We can chit-chat if you're in Winnipeg, and if we can go for coffee. That'd be good.
Just so you know, I did Google you earlier, just to see what come up. And it had to do with an incident. The first thing that came up was an incident you were involved with. Somebody believed that your cane was a dangerous weapon.
Oh, yeah, the Winnipeg police tackled me downtown without any notice or warning from behind as I was standing at a payphone because apparently my cane that was affixed to my hip looked like a concealed weapon. Yeah.
Yeah, so I posted this on my site when it happened.
Sorry?
I posted this on my site when it happened.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, thank you.
I just thought,
it was
wow,
pretty shocking when
really?
it happened, so I'm glad people were sharing it. It
Yeah,
was.
like I just couldn't. I thought, what the, like identify yourselves. You could, if before they just jump on you and tackle you. I'm like, wow. So okay.
One of the best things I saw about that article was a tweet from a fellow Winnipeg, a local advocate, social advocate here, and the tweet was at Winnipeg Police Department, and it was something to the effect of, "You tackled a blind man. What, did you think he was going to run away?" And I'm just like, you know what? That's about it. Like, what would, even if I was running, do you think that they weren't going to catch me? But I mean, I was standing still at the time.
Exactly.
The irony was just so layered.
Oh, yeah, not right. Well, let's see what else. Okay, Facebook, people can find you under Stephen Stairs. And Stephen is spelled, because you got more than one way to spell Stephen.
Stephen is the New English, not old. Steven and stare. Same as you fall down, or in my case, I'm a blind guy. I fall up sometimes.
Hey, at least you can have some humor with it, right?
Oh, yeah. Trust me, I'm Stephen Stairs. I know the right steps.
Yeah.
Fabulous.
Good. Okay, Kim, have you got a shout out for somebody?
I do. I got a shout out for my friends up at Shea Willie's place in Mimbium, Ontario. Looking so forward to this year's annual Hemp Fest. It's happening in Mimbium this August. It's going to be off the hook. 400 tickets are available. $40 for the whole weekend. Yeah, going to be great.
Good.
Come on up to Mimbium.
Well, you're so far up north. Stephen can't be that far from you, can he?
Can't be that far.
All right, guys. Thank you. All right. Okay. This is just a reminder to let everybody know that I will be back next Wednesday with Kim. She's returning next week.
Yes.
Yes, and she will be with our guest, Jennifer P.A.C.E. of the Care Center, correct?
Yes. Jennifer is joining us next week.
Nice. I've talked to her. We talked to her at the Lift Expo, so it'd be good to continue that conversation with her.
Absolutely.
Okay, and you can find P.A.C.E. on Twitter at P.A.C.E. Radio, and you can also like us on Facebook, and you can find P.A.C.E., the P.A.C.E. group, People Advocating Cannabis Education, at pace-online.ca. Oh, I'm hearing the dogs.
Sorry.
No problem. Thank you tonight. Go out to our sponsors, the friendly folks at BMA Hydroponics, who are here in Belleville, Ontario, and to the fine folks at CC Nexus, Canada's largest cannabis seed wholesaler. Plus, always to the man behind the baggie, that's Al Rapp at Lifestyle Radio. Also, thank you to our guest, Stephen Stairs of 420 Winnipeg, and to my joint host, Northern Ontario, Kim Cooper. Plus, a big thank you to you, our listeners, for tuning into the program. Thank you, and good night.
Good night.
Good night, everybody. Good night, everybody.
So what are you doing? Nothing. Why not?
Trying to get on this Lifestyle Radio website.
Sounds like a cool website.
Yeah, it's alright. Oh, wait, I might have it.
You might have it.
You're listening to Lifestyle Radio.
The opinions expressed during this show